All right, this is the check. This is like you should have already finished and completed pages 509 and 510 in your book for chapter 9, mid-chapter check study guide. And now we're going to go over them to make sure you are studying the correct answers. So here we should have a blank has a value that determines the value of another quantity. So this would be the independent variable determines the value of the other quantity. So this one should be independent variable. The next one, a variable whose value is determined by the value of another quantity is called the dependent variable. So that should make sure that's written down and that you study the difference between those two. Now let's talk about what they mean, and maybe that will help you with this vocabulary up here. So let's talk about what this is in this problem. Which one is the dependent and which one is independent and why? So it says identify the independent and the dependent variables. Marco spends a total of $D on postage to mail party invitations to each of G guests. So the dollars, the amount of money he's going to spend is going to depend on how many guests he invites. If he invites a lot of guests, he's going to spend more money. So the independent variable that he could change is the guests. He can change the number of guests, so that's independent. But once he picks how many guests, he can't change how much it's going to cost to send for postage. So this would be your D, your dependent variable. It's dependent upon the number of guests, or the independent variable. Let's try another one. Sophie has a doll collection with 36 dolls. She decides to sell S dolls to a museum and has R dolls remaining. So here, the number remaining is going to depend on the number she decides to sell, right? So the R, the remaining, is dependent upon the number of dolls that she sells. All right, let's look at these. It says write an equation for the relationship shown in the table. Then find the unknown value in the table. So here we are going to take this number and we are going to do something to it that will give us our y. So let's look at this. We're wanting to figure out what this y is. What is y and how do I figure it out? So here's what I know. 6 times 7 is 42. I also know 8 times 7 is 56. And 9 times 7 is 63. So it looks like I'm taking my x variable and just multiplying it times 7 each time. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to plug this x variable in right here as a 7, and 7 times 7 equals 49. All right. So here we have our y variable is again what we're questioning, what the question mark is representing. So we want to figure out how to figure out what y is. So if I look at each of these, I notice I always start with multiplication and division because usually that's what we're looking at. Not always, but usually. So 20 divided by 5 equals 4. 40 divided by 5 equals 8. And 80 divided by 5 equals 16. So I am going to take my x and divide it by 5. And I'm going to see what my answer would be for y. So if I put a 60 in there for x, 60 divided by 5, 5 fits into 6 once with 2 left over. 5 fits into 24 times, so my answer there, let me just check that. That is not right. Let me show you why that's not right. Sorry, that should be a 12. So that would be 5 fits into 6 once with 10 left over. So that would be where I get my 12. 12 would be my value of y if my x is 60. Okay, here it says, write an equation that describes the pattern shown in the table. The table shows how the number of pepperoni slices used depends on the number of pizzas being made. So let's see what the pattern is. So 34 divided by 2 is 17. So I'm going to try to use 17 as my number here. 2 times 17 equals 34. 3 times 17, I'll have to go over and check it, is 51. Yep, so let's check another one. 5 times 17 is 85. So I'm finding out that when I take my x to figure out what the y is, y equals whatever my x is times 17. So it'll be 17x. That's how I'll find out what my y is. Now, if you knew your y and you had to figure out your x, the other way to do this would be if you are trying to figure out what x is, right? We could put in this number, whatever your y is, divided by 17. That would be another way we could write an equation that we could solve. All right, so that's a couple. I'd go with that first way because usually here you are trying to figure your pepperoni slices are dependent on the number of pizzas, right? So that's why we are going to solve for the dependent variable, the y here. So you actually wouldn't want to put that one. Yes, they both represent the equation, but this is the one they're looking for. All right, so Braden is training for a marathon. The table shows how the number of miles he runs depends on which week of training he is in. So I had to look for a pattern here, and I noticed that I couldn't multiply 3 times 2 to get 8, and I couldn't multiply it times 3 to get 8. So I tried adding. So I added 5 here, and then I noticed I did add 5 here. From 5 plus 5 is 10. 8 plus 5 is 13, and 12 plus 5 is 17. So I realized I was taking my W and just adding 5. And that is how I could determine the M in miles. So that is an equation that we can write for that one. All right, number 9. The band has a total of 152 members. Some of the members are in the marching band and the rest are in the concert band. Write an equation that models how many marching band members, M, there are if there are C, concert band members. So we want to know the number of marching band members. And so we know that if there's 152 overall altogether, and that there's C number of concert band members, C, 152 minus C will tell us how many marching band members. A coach is ordering baseball jerseys from a website. The jerseys cost $15 each, and the shipping is $8 per order. Write an equation that can be used to determine the total cost Y in dollars for X jerseys. So we're figuring out the cost, Y, for X numbers of jerseys. So each jersey is 15 each, so we could do 15 times X, the number of jerseys. And then shipping is $8 per order. So they're only going to order once here. So we're just going to add the shipping cost as $8. So here is the equation. It says write an equation that can be used to determine the total cost. That would be our equation. All right, 11, Amy volunteers at an animal shelter. She worked 10 hours in March, 12 hours in April, 14 hours in May, 16 hours in June. If the pattern continues, how many hours will she work in December? So we have March 10, April 12, March, April, May 14, June 16, July, August, September, October, November, December. So it looks here like you're counting by twos, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. So there will be, in December, she will work 28 hours. Number 12, Aaron wants to buy a new snowboard. The table shows the amount that he has saved. If the pattern in the table continues, how much will he have saved after 1 year? So here's how I was figuring this one out. For 3, we go from 3 to 4. This is the number of months, and then just month number 6 and month number 7. So I did not notice this right away the first time I tried this, but there's a month missing here. So I'm going to look at the numbers they gave, and I'm going to see what the difference is. So I take 180 minus 135, and the difference I get when I subtract is 45. So from here to here, that's $45. Then I jump from 180 to 270. So I'm going to find the difference there. 270 minus 180 is 90. So I have $90 jump here. Then I'm going to figure out the jump here because I'm a little confused about finding my pattern. 70, that's 30, 45 again. So I go back to 45 here. So then I have to really look at my chart and think, well, it's going up 45. It would make sense if it went up 45 a month. Oh, look at here. 45 plus another 45 equals 90. So if we added that month 5 in there, it would have been adding $45 every month. So let's look at what it's asking us to do. Aaron wants to buy a new snowboard. The table shows the amount that he has saved. Right? If the pattern of the table continues, how much will he have saved after a year? So there's 12 months in a year. 12 times the $45 a month that he is saving. We're going to go ahead and multiply that, because it doesn't ask us for an equation. It actually asks us to solve this problem. And we get $540. He will have saved $540. Okay, so that is your study guide. Make sure you take it home with you to study for your test.